Hello, and welcome to the Movie Universe. I'm your host, Movie Fan. Today, I'll be talking about America's Funniest Home Videos. Now we all know the show. Basically, people send in funny videos of funny things that happen to them, and maybe they'll win a prize, or at the very least, they'll just show your video on TV, and you get the claim to fame. So obviously, there's nothing I could say about that. However, I don't intend to. Instead, I'll be talking about the history of this legendary series. Starting in 1989, it was an instant success because it was unlike any show that was out there at that time. Because to the best of my knowledge, there was never a show that had just regular people doing funny things and, you end up possibly winning a prize. And even if you don't enter a video in, you still can just sit back and enjoy what's coming on because what can happen can be so darn funny. You never really know what's going to happen until it actually does. But I think the one thing that made this show such a huge success was our host, Bob Saget. He was there from 1989 all the way until 1997. And just about every fan of the show agrees, he was the best host. Because he would just come out, it would be just like a regular living room he would just pal around in. He would introduce people that are coming up to win the prize. And while some of the videos were going on, he would actually do some pretty hilarious voiceovers. It was like a trademark to see him do that because, as we all remember, he worked with Dave Coulier, better known as Joey Gladstone from Full House, when they were in the show together. And Joey was the one who was always doing those voice impersonations. So it was really refreshing to see him actually do that himself. And of course, I cannot forget the theme song. The theme song was one of the things that drew people in. It was simple, it was catchy, and it got right to the point about the show. And it stayed on for almost 20 years before they changed it up to be just strictly instrumental, and even then you barely hear a bit of it. After Bob Saget left the show back in 97, we ended up with two hosts, John Fugelsang and Daisy Fuentes. And, well, yeah, I'm just going to come out and say it. They sucked. They ruined the show. They were the biggest disaster for America's Funniest Home Videos. I'm not kidding. They were only on for 2 years. That's how bad they really were. Because John, he was just coming out cracking some very stupid jokes that did not make anyone laugh. And don't let the people laughing in the background fool you. That's just the applause and laugh button talking. They're only laughing because that sign is telling them to. Every joke he says is just downright stupid. There is nothing funny about him at all. And Daisy, well, there's really nothing for her there. I mean, she doesn't crack any good jokes. She just doesn't do anything except look hot. That's all she does. Not that I'm complaining about that too much, but I would imagine that if you were going to have two hosts, you might want to do something more with both of them instead of just having her standing there looking like a supermodel the whole time. These two were so terrible that they literally only lasted for 2 years. You know what? Now that I think about it, that's a bit off. If anything, they lasted for 1 year because we all know how this really goes. The new episodes start in the fall, and then they end at the end of spring of the following year. And this went from 1998 to 1999, so obviously they lasted for only 1 year. I'm guessing during that time, either the ratings dropped or they got so many angry letters about how unfunny they were that ABC just kicked them out. Thank God. Then during 1999 into 2000, they had a series of specials on America's Funniest Home Videos. They had all kinds of guest stars from D.L. Hughley to Richard Kind. Obviously, they were searching for a new host, but they didn't find that host yet, so they had to fill the void somehow. Then in 2001, we got the host we were looking for, Tom Bergeron. He hosted that from 2001 all the way to 2015. And he was a great host. He really filled the void. I mean, he had some really good wisecracks. He knew how to connect with the audience. He was like a different version of Bob Saget, minus the funny voices, of course. For 15 glorious years, Tom Bergeron hosted the show. We had some really great laughs, some really big prizes, and so many other things. And of course, in 2015, he retired and passed the torch to Alfonso Ribeiro, better known as Carlton Banks. And currently he hosts the show, and he hosts it really well, I might add. He keeps the humor going in his own awesome way, while maintaining the show's integrity. which for a show that's been running this long is not an easy thing to do, especially with a different host. So hats off to him for carrying that torch well. Now the question is, what will become of America's Funniest Home Videos in the near future? In short, I really don't know. Maybe one day it'll go off the air. Maybe one day Alfonso will decide to retire. Maybe it'll go on forever. But you know what? I don't care. I'm just sitting back and enjoying what's coming on. And really, that is the whole essential thing to the show. You just sit back and enjoy the show. You don't think about the future. You just enjoy the laughs that are coming on. So if you've never seen the show in any of its forms, you might want to look it up. If you're watching the current show, and I'm sure you are, well, you just keep watching it because it's still funny. If you've never seen the episodes with Tom Bergeron or the legendary Bob Saget, look them up. They are totally worth watching, especially Bob Saget's episodes. But I will tell you one thing. Do not watch the one with Daisy and John. It is horrible. Just stick with Tom, Bob, and Al. Stick with them, and you'll be fine. This is Movie Fan, signing off.